Alright guys, what's up? Now the purpose of this video is kind of me to go over Sean O'Malley's career so far. Because after this bullshit performance he put against Merab, I'm very curious as to know if his entire career was built on smoke and mirrors. Now, prior to UFC 306, my thoughts on Sean O'Malley were pretty high. I would talk to some of my friends, and I would say that Sean O'Malley's peak always looks something like Israel Adesanya's peak. You know, he's a very talented, highly skilled striker. People are gonna struggle to take him down. He's long, he's lanky. It's gonna be hard to get him on the ground, and he's gonna catch you on entries. He's gonna do a lot of damage, and he's gonna, hold that belt for quite a while. Now, obviously, after the Sphere, it now looks like all of that was a bunch of BS. Since Merab made him look hella human, and I don't think that fight was close. I mean, I know some judges gave it like rounds 3 and 5 to Sean, making the cards look a bit closer than they were. But if you watch that fight, I mean, you could go give like neutral moments in that fight to Sean if you wanted to, but Sean really did nothing in that fight to make me think that it was even close. So yeah, I kind of started doing a dive into his career after this, and I found stuff that might be slightly concerning. Now, no one is arguing that Sean isn't an amazing, talented striker. He definitely is. He definitely carries power with him too, and he definitely has the frame of someone that can do a lot of damage on the feet. But Sean has 5 knockouts in the UFC if you exclude the Aljamain Sterling one, and all 5 of these opponents are essentially like 50% win rate in the UFC, and none of them are in the UFC today. So all 5 of these opponents that he's knocked out in the UFC are no longer in the UFC, and like their names are Jose Alberto Quinones. Sorry, I butchered that. Eddie Wineland, Thomas Almeida, Chris Moutinho, and Raulian Paiva. Now, all these guys are no longer in the UFC. Uh, Within these 5 knockouts, he did fight Chito Vera in between, and he lost that fight, obviously, because of Chito Vera hitting him in the nerve, which kind of made him lose that fight. And, that a loss is a loss. But obviously, he did avenge that. All right, and this is kind of where his career gets interesting. Now, after the Raul and Paiva knockout, his next fight was Pedro Munoz. And I mean, Pedro Munoz is good. He's been around for a bit, but he's nothing special, like nothing to rave about at least. And this fight ended in a no contest, with Pedro Munoz getting his eye poked in round 2. And if you go look at the scorecards, I'll pop them up right here. Pedro Munoz won round 1 on 2 out of 3 judges' scorecards in this fight. So this was kind of the first look, aside from the Chito Vera fight, at some level of quality opponents. And yeah, fight ends in a no contest. This is where the career gets interesting. And then after this no contest, he gets, gifted, or I guess you could say that, but opportunistically, he gets to fight Peter Yan. And this fight ends in a split decision. Lots of random bullshit happened in this fight, a bunch of fence grabbing, a bunch of things. A lot of people don't agree with the decision, me being one of them. So now he wins this potentially shady, questionable split decision to Peter Yan, which puts him right in line for a title shot against Aljamain Sterling. Now, this fight with Aljo, I think, kind of put the stamp on the smoke and mirrors that is Sean O'Malley's career. Uh, he wins this fight with the counter right that knocked out Aljamain in round 2. And now I'm going to ask you guys this. If Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling were to fight again today, and you had to put your money down on one side, which side would it be? And it's interesting to note that after this fight, it's kind of where this talk started happening. Like, oh, Sean O'Malley's peak, I think he'll look something like Israel Adesanya's. He's going to be hard to take down. He's too accurate. He'll catch people on the entries. And he did. Now, not to say that this win was luck, but I'll just say I don't know if he can do it again. And that's kind of where I'll leave it. So he beats Aljo with that knockout. And then he gets some time to kind of, soak in the bullshit, which is, I'm going to be this next big star. I'm going to be the next Conor McGregor. And, UFC fans and the UFC ate it up, because why not? Like, we want to eat that up. That's exactly what we're looking for. That's exactly the entertainment we want to see. And, now there's this guy, colorful hair, champion, knocking everybody out. It's a great look. And then he gets to fight Marlon Vera again to avenge that loss. And once again, nobody's arguing that Sean is this really talented striker. Chito Vera is good, but he is low volume. He does have power, but Sean is pretty elusive. His footwork is really good. He's defensively very sound on the feet, and this Chito Vera matchup is just really good stylistically for him. So he beats Chito Vera, and beating Chito Vera is sick, but Figueiredo just beat Chito Vera, and nobody's out here raving about Figueiredo being the next big UFC star. I mean, if you watch the UFC, you really appreciate someone like Figueiredo, but aside from that, he's not nowhere near the levels of like fame that Sean O'Malley's at, and that's kind of what I think the smoke and mirrors are on, because now it's a shady win to Peter Yan, an Aljamain Sterling knockout that I wouldn't bet money that he could do again, and then a win against Chito Vera, and then aside from a no contest that he lost round one against Pedro Munoz, 5 knockouts of people that are no longer in the UFC. Then he fights Merab and he loses. Now, this to me just seems like, when I look at it like that, I don't think this is actually an impressive career whatsoever. And maybe I'm just kind of like cherry picking the words I'm using, but there just isn't much here to warrant all the hype, at least the hype that I was fooled into believing prior to the Sphere card. Now, from here, I think it's important to kind of look at what can Sean O'Malley do next in his career, because I don't hate Sean O'Malley. This video might seem like that. Maybe I'm just a salty guy who bet on Sean O'Malley, but that's not what it is at all. I actually really enjoy Sean O'Malley, and like I said, UFC fans want this stuff to be true. We want to see that next big star that can walk out to superstar and just kind of captivate the audience. But I hope he can kind of recapture that. I think it's going to be really hard. Looking forward, it's kind of hard to matchmake Sean O'Malley now, knowing that that hole in his game exists. I think after the Aljamain fight, you just assume that hole doesn't exist, but I mean it does. So looking at the bantamweight rankings now, it's kind of complicated. If he fights Merab again, I don't think he wins. Now with fighters like this, when you have a striker that's just going to get fucked by wrestlers, you have to be able to offensively wrestle. And I know like a lot of people on YouTube say this, so this is nothing new, but just standing there and trying to get as good as you can at takedown defense to stop the threat of the takedown, it's not enough, because one, it opens so much on the feet for them. That's why Islam Makhachev can strike with Dustin Poirier the way as well as he can. I mean, not to take anything away from Makhachev, he has obviously developed great striking as well, but that's why Umar can do what he can with Corey Sandhagen on the feet as well. It's just that it opens so much for the wrestler, since the striker is always worried about the takedown attempt. But if you can mix in some offensive wrestling, it keeps the wrestler now on his toes. So that's pretty important. So Sean really has to work on a lot of stuff when it comes to the wrestling side, which is why I think he's just too far off beating Merab in a rematch. And then obviously, I think a lot of people would agree with this, but Umar and Merab is going to be the next champ in this division. I don't think Merab holds his belt for long at all. If Merab is smart, he does whatever he can to start beef with like Davis and Figueiredo. Figueiredo's coming off the win against Marlon Vera, so the UFC could potentially find a narrative for Figueiredo to fight for the belt. It obviously is not warranted. Umar definitely deserves it more. He definitely just beat Corey Sandhagen with such a wide margin that you have to give Umar the next shot. But if Merab is smart, he's going to do something and start beef with Figueiredo or someone. But Merab's not that smart, so I doubt he would do that. And he holds this belt, 0 defenses, fights Umar, loses to Umar. Umar is now the bantamweight champ. I don't think Sean can beat Peter Yan in a rematch. Like, all these guys in bantamweight are pretty well rounded. When it comes down to like Corey and Davison, now I think those are people that Sean could potentially fight. Henry Cejudo, Sean could potentially fight. I know a lot of people have said that that could be a good comeback fight for Sean. But I think the best thing Sean can do to keep up this big star aura, this like energy that a lot of fans love, is actually just move up to featherweight. Now, featherweight's an interesting spot. Max is fighting Ilya for the belt, and I'm going to be honest, I think Max is going to get washed by Ilya. I don't think Max really has a shot in this fight. Stylistically, it just sucks for Max. Ilya has a super low stance, and his body's kind of hidden. So it's really hard to open things up, and, he throws those, like, really powerful hooks towards Max. So I think Ilya just stylistically is a bad matchup for Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway loses that fight. I know a lot of people probably agree Ilya is like minus 200. So it's not like a lot of people are out here picking Max, but there are a bunch of people picking Max. And yeah, I just don't think Max Holloway can beat Topuria in that fight. for the belt. So I think Max Holloway loses, and I think this is kind of what opens up probably the best thing for Sean O'Malley. And I mean, let me know if you guys think there's any better outcome. In my opinion, this is probably the best outcome for Sean O'Malley. And I know he wants to take 6 to 7 months off, which I think is smart. I think he lets UFC 308 play out. Um, Ilya retains the belt, and then Max Holloway is once again just like floating in the top two contenders in the featherweight division as he's always been. And I think that would be probably the best comeback fight for Sean O'Malley. I think for fans that would be great. I think they can build a big narrative around it. Holloway is not going to try to take Sean O'Malley down. That fight's going to be a banger. I think Max beats him, to be honest. Max is just a lot more durable. But Sean has a chin. He's never fully really been like tested like that. He does have that knockout, like TKO loss to Chito Vera, but that was because of the nerve ending that got hit in his leg. So, you know, both of these guys could, like, we know Max is durable. Sean hasn't been tested on the feet a lot, but we can tell that he's pretty durable. Like Chito hasn't been able to do anything with him with all those rounds. So yeah, I think that would be probably the most banger comeback fight that Sean O'Malley can do. He's also very long for bantamweight, so he can definitely fill out to the featherweight frame pretty well. I think that could realistically be the best outcome. There's other people in featherweight that could also be decent for him to fight, but it's just looking at bantamweight, knowing that there's that whole, unless he goes like further down the rankings to like Cejudo at 6 or below, a lot of these fighters are gonna know like how to match up against Sean. Obviously, I don't think they're all gonna have as much success as Merab. Merab is like just a really high level wrestler, but in general, Sean's not gonna want to fight like low in the rankings. Realistically, he's gonna look to fight somewhere at the top. So I just think he's better off fighting Max than going lower in the rankings and try to work his way back up, knowing that people like Merab and Umar are going to be at the top of the division for at least for some time in the foreseeable future. So yeah, I think that's the best outcome out of all of this. Personally, that's a pretty good outcome in my opinion, Sean O'Malley versus Max Holloway. But I think at the end of the day, just looking at Sean O'Malley's career, it's kind of crazy how in one night and doing a little bit of a dive, you can kind of tell that like Sean O'Malley hasn't really done as much in his career as at least we thought he would. At least for me, I was fooled. I thought he was going to be this big star. I thought he could beat Merab and then kind of look forward. But, things happen. It's kind of crazy how he had that shady split versus Peter Yan. If you think he could beat Aljo again in a rematch, let me know in the comments. I would be pretty curious to know that. And then Chito Vera, which is like a solid win, but nothing to write home about when it comes to like legacy defining fighters. So yeah, that's really about it. Aside from that, it's literally just knocking up guys that are no longer in the UFC. So yeah, it's pretty crazy the way things turned out. Thanks for watching, and yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on this entire thing. Have I gotten kind of overboard when it comes to recency bias with O'Malley? Was I just kind of stupid to think O'Malley was as good as I thought? And yeah, also let me know what your thoughts are on Max versus Ilya. I definitely think Ilya washes Max. So yeah, curious to know. Peace.